Brian, I don't know if you know this or not, but we're a year apart at Harvard, and I called your games for the Harvard student radio station when you were
That's
there.
awesome.
Yeah. Um, Maybe your parents listened. I don't know. Maybe they went to all your games. I don't know. At that, I
Yeah.
mean, this was like 2005 or so. So that was like the only way I think outsiders could listen to the games because they weren't on TV at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's crazy now. Like all the high school games are on YouTube, right?
Totally. It's
And it's like,
amazing.
yeah, back then that was it. You were the voice of the Crimson.
That's right. It was WHRB, the student radio
Yeah.
station.
It's awesome.
So let me ask you a question about that because I remember calling your games and you were excellent as the Harvard quarterback, but I've got to admit, I had no idea that you were going to become an NFL quarterback for 15 seasons at that stage. Did you know?
You didn't believe in me. I mean, no,
It,
I didn't either. I had no idea. Wouldn't have guessed it. After my junior year, started getting calls from agents, and that was the first time the NFL thing even crossed my mind. But I had no clue. And even when I was in the NFL, it was like, no clue if I actually belonged or fit in. And I stuck around for 17 years. So I think I surprised a lot of people, including myself.
so let me talk about the fitting in thing because I would imagine that just in general, the people you were around at Harvard on the Harvard football team were probably a little different than the people you ran into in the NFL. Like, how did you fit in? Was it natural? Was it something you needed to learn?
No, it was natural. I've always been a people person. So just getting to know people on a personal level, learning as much as I could, and you kind of find your place. In an NFL locker room, as a rookie, you be quiet and you listen and you learn. And then as you get older, and for me, as I went from team to team and became a leader and a captain on a bunch of different teams, you really learn to embrace your role. But for me, I get along with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and so that was one of the best parts about going from team to team was getting to meet a lot of different people and making a lot of great friendships along the way.
Look, this is CNBC, so we approach all this from a business standpoint. But in many ways, when you're on a football team, particularly when you're the quarterback, there's issues of leadership. It's sort of like a little mini business that you're running. I'm curious because you were so often both a starting quarterback and a backup quarterback. Was the way you were perceived by your teammates different depending on your role on a given team?
I think that's a really good question. I think it has to be different. If you're a backup quarterback, it's got to be different because it's the guy that's starting, it's his team, and he's the one that's got to lead the meetings and, he has to have the pulse of the team and be able to figure out and get guys to play for him. So I think you do take a back seat as a backup, but in becoming the starter, whether that's at the beginning of the year or replacing somebody in the middle of the year, it's much like when these coaches get fired and there's an interim coach that has to step up. You kind of have been sitting back watching and learning and figuring out, the things that you would change and the things that you like. And for me, I always try to be myself, put my own little flavor on everything. And, the end goal is how do I bring everybody up? How do we continue to get this thing moving in the right direction and getting better? Because a lot of the places I went weren't the perennial playoff teams. They were teams that were probably drafting a quarterback early and trying to fix the franchise. And so I really embraced that role, being the guy that would be a placeholder and being a leader. So that was a fun part for me towards the tail end of my career and being in that role.
You were on so many different teams, and now your job as a broadcaster is sort of to take people, inside the game to some degree. Is there something that comes to mind for you that is a misperception about the league that only a player would really know that you think fans consistently get wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things. I'll even just go with the example right now of backup quarterbacks that are playing. The Cowboys have an example of Cooper Rush, and everybody says, "Why? Why is he playing and not Trey Lance?" The thing that I think people misperceive or don't understand from the outside is players are smart and they know who the best players are, and they know who the guys that are supposed to be out there on the field. And as soon as a coach or as an organization, you're making moves that don't have the best interests of the players at heart, that aren't trying to win football games, that's when you lose teams. And so I think that's a perception always from the fans of, well, why aren't they playing the young guy? Why aren't they putting this guy in to see what he's got? As players, we're always trying to win, no matter the record. And that reverberates in the locker room if that's not your intent as a head coach or as an owner.
Let me just a quick follow up on that one, though. Does that therefore inhibit strategy? Because at some point, if you know that you are having a losing record, as a future looking organization, you probably should want to A, prepare for the future, and B, maybe even get a better draft pick. So it seems like those incentives may be clashing.
Well, so in terms of playing younger guys, sprinkling them in, that's fine. But the whole tanking thing, I was part of, Miami when the whole Brian Flores' first year, 2019, the thought was tank for Tua, and it seemed like from the roster that was put out there on the field that there was the intent to tank, but it's not possible in an NFL locker room to tank. Guys care about it too much. They respect football too much. And, that was one of those things in 2019. We ended up reeling off 5 wins at the end of the year. Yeah, it screwed up the placement in the draft, but as players, you don't know how to shut it off. And so that's something that just doesn't happen in the NFL.
Put you on the spot a little bit here just because you played for so many teams. From an organizational standpoint, in terms of, I'm talking about the facilities, the ownership, the culture, the management, which of the teams that you played for was your favorite?
This is a really tough question for me because there are so many factors that go into it, like you just mentioned, and so many different variables. But I'll tell you, there were a lot that I loved, and there were a couple that I didn't. And I've teams continue to get better, facilities continue to get better. So Buffalo, for example, is a place I love to live. It was a culture and a building that I love to be a part of. The facilities weren't up to par, but they've changed since I've been there, and now they're really nice. The Jets, a great example of a place where the facilities were top notch, unbelievable. They provided everything you wanted as a player. They treated you the right way. But as we've seen in the last few weeks with firing head coaches and firing GMs, there's just constant turmoil in that organization. And that makes it harder to win when there's not that continuity and stability. So there's a lot of different places and factors that go into what my favorites were. But for me, a lot of it lies in my family, where we moved, how they treated my family, how were the communities. Houston and Tampa were two other ones that were really special to us.
Turn our attention to the Black Friday game upcoming. One question first about Amazon in general. Amazon seems to be a little different than some of the other media companies in how upfront they are with sort of the naked commercialism, capitalization, or capitalism, I should say, of Amazon Prime, right? They say, why are we in the sports business? Well, it's to sell more Prime memberships, subscriptions. Does that factor in at all to your job, to what Amazon expects of you in a broadcast?
Well, I'm glad you gave me this platform to tell all my relatives I don't get free Prime memberships. So stop asking. I won't give them for Christmas. I'm not giving them for Black Friday. But it's been an amazing 2.5 years for me to be able to be involved in this from the ground floor. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff with technology that just goes way over my head, but they put so much pride into getting it right the first time. And the amazing thing that I've learned about Amazon and working for Thursday night is never are they satisfied. I think it's amazing the feat they pulled off in the first year for it to be so great in terms of the streams and the product they put out there. But every offseason, all they care about is innovating and providing the customer with the best possible experience. And so for me, that's been eye-opening, and it's been really fun to be a part of.
Have you ever spoken with Jeff Bezos?
I have. I have. I am in contact much more with Andy Jassy now, being a former Harvard guy. I run into him a little bit on campus, and I've had a couple conversations with him. So definitely more Andy than Jeff.
And I'm just curious, what are they asking you about?
It depends. You know, Andy Jassy, he's a huge sports fan, and so he really has a lot of great questions. He has questions for us about the broadcast and how we think we can improve it, but he also has strategic questions about quarterback play and offenses and play calling and all those things. So that's fun to be able to break down some of that with him as well.
What do you think? Look, Chiefs Raiders, big game for both teams in different ways. The Chiefs have gotten off to yet again such a strong start. When you watch them this year, do they look like the same team that has won the Super Bowl in the past 2 years, or do you sense that this year's team may have some weaknesses that other ones didn't?
It's the same thing as last year. I thought they had some glaring weaknesses last year, and didn't think they'd be able to return to the Super Bowl, let alone win one. And they did. They proved me wrong. So it's hard to doubt them. You know, they're playing a different style right now than when Patrick Mahomes was younger. The ball's not going downfield as much. They don't have the weapons that they've had on offense in the past, but they proved last year with great defense and with Patrick Mahomes, once they get to the playoffs, they can get it done. And so they're using the same formula this year. It's going to be interesting to see, because it's going to be a tough road, not just getting through the AFC, but whoever comes out on top of the NFC. That's a conference that's really improved over the last few years. So I can't imagine they're going to get it done again, but I've doubted them in the past. So we will see. But I'll say this, the exciting part for us this year, the NFL schedule makers, they gave us a lot of divisional games, and that's led to some great rivalries and some great games for us on Thursday night this year. And, you know, this Black Friday game, same thing. I mean, the Raiders and the Chiefs, there's a lot of history there, and we're really looking forward to watching that rivalry unfold.
All right, you sort of led me into my last question is, at this stage, what's your Super Bowl prediction?
Oh, I've been all over the place this year. I've been mixing and matching. I think I started the year with Baltimore and San Fran. You know, the key is they've got to get hot at the right time. So even though San Francisco is floundering a little bit right now compared to what they normally have, they have the talent to do it. So I'm completely switched. I'm on the Lions bandwagon right now. I think it would be incredible if we had a Buffalo Bills, Detroit Lions Super Bowl, two franchises that have been starved for so long. That would be Super Bowl I want to see.
Yep, that's the fan pick. I agree. Both of those teams look great, though I am a 49ers fan, so I hope your first prediction was right and they turn things around. Dre Greenlaw's coming back soon. Maybe that'll be the difference.
Well, you've been living good for so long. You know, the 49ers, it's okay if they have a down year every now and again.
I know, but we're still waiting for it's been, 28 years now, something like that? Maybe I have my math slightly wrong. I guess compared to the Lions, I shouldn't be complaining, but or the Bills, for that matter. All right, great. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you coming on.
Okay, no problem. We'll see you.